A few years ago, I began to really take an interest in doing a better job of lighting my shots. And one of the tricks I began to use was to create this dark area of what you can see here and here and here around the perimeters of the screen to create this internal area of light that focuses your eye. Obviously, you can't do this for every shot or it would look a little bit stilted. But many times for something like this, it really is ideal. And I'll show you another example, also very justified by the time period where we have the medieval philosopher who's studying his strange books lit by candlelights. And clearly, here also, you do want the light to drop off. Well, I began to wonder maybe I'm taking this a little too far, maybe I'm overdoing it. And then I found out afterwards that this was a technique that the old Disney background painters call the bowl of light effect. You find a spot in your shot and you just light it as if it's been hit by an imaginary spotlight. So this is a good technique to use to really accentuate the areas inside of your shot and to move things out of the direct area and focus the eye where it really belongs, and that is on the character and the core elements of the scene. Now, here is an example of how you can use light to tell you something about the character and to tell you something about the story. This particular shot represents the Greek philosopher Pythagoras. And in this part of the story on this project that I'm currently working on, the idea of Pythagoras was that true knowledge comes from thought alone, and that your senses, your sight and sound and taste simply couldn't be trusted. And so I wanted to use a visual technique to really, really convey that to the viewer, that this man really wasn't interested in the world of the senses, which you see symbolized by his left hand in the light. He really, really, really only trusts the world of his imagination and entering into a kind of a mental, not a darkness is unfair to say, but a world purely of the mind. And here we have a similar use of the same technique. Once established, I saw no reason to not use it again, so it works again to really reinforce this theme. And one more shot of Pythagoras, and in this shot, we have him posed a little bit like a James Bond supervillain. And again, the lighting has been used for dramatic effect, but also it's telling you a little something about this character, that he might be the kind of person that you don't want to mess with. Now that I've shown you these static examples of what the bowl of light and different lighting effects look like, let's take an animated example and see how it applies to this. On the left side is my original shot, and this has no lighting whatsoever. This is the kind of thing you see a lot if you look at kids' TV. Many, many shots just with one light source. On the right side, what I wanted to do was to focus the viewer's eye on this character here as he walks into this spot. And you'll see this area right here. That's where the brightest little area is. So let's have a look at the left and the right, and I'll try to play them roughly at the same time. Now I'm going to pause it close to the end. So let's have a look at how these shots look when they conclude. And at this point, you'll be able to see that we have a much more interesting shot on the right side. The character really stands out against that degraded looking background. It even feels a little dirtier. And the fellows that are walking off on the right side, they're disappearing into the gloom. This naturally focuses your eye away from them and where I want it to be. I want your focus to be here on this man's face. So this is a great example of how you can use lighting to push the viewer's eye to the exact point where you want it. What you need to take away from this is that lighting isn't a peripheral part of the process. How you light a scene or a sequence can be critical in conveying the essence of the characters, their motivations, their thinking processes, as well as the dramatic tone of the shot.